There is an issue that I want to pick out regarding the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who was in Istanbul on Saturday for talks on energy and navigation security efforts to end the war with Russia, according to the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. But the meeting at this time around, during the war that is happening on Iran, as well as how Volodymyr Zelensky had met other leaders, Arab nation leaders in Qatar and Kuwait, it's important to understand how it is going, as well as we've seen Italian Prime Minister landing in Qatar to understand how they can benefit from their relationship. So this is the time they're exchanging data, exchanging information. The allied nations are trying to figure out how they can stop these confronting wars. Of course, we have Russia on one side as well as Iran, both who are actually fighting wars on their respective ends. It has a spiraling effect. Of course, the two leaders, Erdogan and Zelensky, had discussed relations between the countries, peace efforts in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, regional and international developments. How do you see this? Leaders from various zones are now meeting up, understanding or trying to make understanding of the new world situation.
Well, it tells another story too. First of all, it's every man for himself. I mean, international self-interest. I mean, you have to determine your own interest in this issue. Italy goes to Qatar. England goes to areas that it protects in the Gulf area. France does the same thing. So everybody is looking to protect their own interests. Okay, so multilateralism, NATO, European Union, aggregations that have always held since over the last 50 years are starting to break off into individual members, how they each pursue their own interests. Turkey's a very interesting player, very strong country. They could be a huge add if they come in on the side of Ukraine. Don't forget the helplessness or the futility, if you will, of the United States effort in this war is evident by the fact that they have had to reduce the sanctions on both Russia and Iran in order to enable fuel to go into the rest of the world. And so these were supposedly very, very positive, important steps to control Russia's aggression in Ukraine, to stop the Iranians from continuing to propagate their battles in the war. But Trump, in his infinite wisdom, of course, had to let each one of them off the hook on sanctions because he had stumbled so badly from a strategic point of view. Now, back to Erdogan. I think that Zelensky is playing his hand also very well. What he's doing in the Gulf Coast is saying, listen, we have had experience shooting down these Iranian drones before.
4 years of
experience. So we'll give you the interceptors and teach you how to use these interceptors more effectively. And so now he is an exporter of this capacity. These are very cheap interceptors that can be used effectively. And so out of the war and out of their getting hammered by Russia, now they have become an exporter of defensive weapons. That's a pretty important, significant change. I also think that all the reports that are coming out, I mean, the drone warfare against Ukraine has been very, very successful. Russia sends massive amounts on
600 at a time in some cases.
But the battle on the ground, the territory on the ground, Russia is not advancing at all in eastern Ukraine. In fact, they're pulling back. And the number of people who have been killed on the Russian side is extreme. So I think that Zelensky is being pretty, very clever. If by any chance Turkey were to provide weapons to Ukraine to help battle against Russia, I think that's a game changer if it were to happen. And the fact that they're even talking is an amazing breakthrough, because Turkey has no love lost for Israel. Turkey also, in addition, is a member of NATO, and as such would be covered by Article 5 if anybody messed with Turkey. They are very much interested in peace in the Middle East and
of course,
in rebuilding in Gaza. So all of these things are coming into play, the economic interests of Turkey also have to be considered. You know, because they are very much probably the biggest construction company or the most capable construction operators in the Middle East. So huge contracts in Gaza were this to happen.
Yeah.
You know, it's all a piece, isn't it? But everybody is now out for their own individual interests here. Group, NATO, and all of that kind of stuff, I think, my opinion, is being less and less important, and individual countries are making their decisions.